Welcome to today's guided practice session. So excited about this one. This is going to be a really fun one. Today, we are working on diatonic shapes made for blazing. There is a PDF that's yours to download for free here. We're going to be taking some diatonic shapes through giant steps. Now, it's a bit of a cheeky title because we're not really going to blaze that much. If you want to play fast, you have to learn these concepts and be able to get through things nice and slow. So we're going to take it slow to medium, but these shapes are made for absolutely burning up and down the keyboard. So make sure to get to your piano, get to your instrument, and let's get going. We do have an offer today for our YouTube folks. You know how we like to do that. 50% off pentatonics and playing out. There's a link down there. That's one of my most popular courses here at Open Studio, dealing with how to play pentatonic shapes and ideas for pentatonic shapes. I practice with you how to play outside the changes. Folks seem to really be digging it, so we thought we would give you that offer of 50% today. Let's get going. Let's start the ablazon. So there's a few things that I want to talk about here. First is that when we take general shapes through chord changes, what that does is it sets our listener's ear and our own ear up for expectations, right? When we play a shape like our first shape here, which is a triad, we can move it around pretty much anywhere, and our ear doesn't mind. So I want to work through giant steps doing 3 different shapes today, and I want to take them through in a very specific way. The first shape, of course, is the triad. This is the grandmama of all shapes. It is so ingrained in our ears that we could pretty much do anything with it, and nobody minds. Nobody minds with the triad. So the first thing I want to do, though, is to talk about using the triad on a major chord and then on a dominant chord. So we're going to be dealing with the first 8 bars of giant steps, which is all just major chords, followed by dominant chords, followed by major chords, followed by dominant chords, followed by major chords, right? And it does it all again. So those are kind of the 2 main things we need to know, major chords and dominant chords, and how can we use those shapes over those 2 things. Now, as we know, giant steps goes through a bunch of different tonalities very, very quickly. So these shapes are just so killing at getting us through those tonalities pretty much unscathed. Now, for the major 7 chords, all of the major chords that we're going to be using on the triad, we're going to do triads without any fourths. So no fourth of E flat, so no A flat. That means any triad that is diatonic in the key of A flat, or in the key of E flat, that has that A flat in it, we're not going to use. That leaves us with 4 triads as options, quote unquote. Now, these are just my guidelines. You could do whatever you want, and I encourage you to experiment with whatever you want to do. But as I was going through this, I just really liked this sound, so this is what I picked. So for our E flat major triad, anything that doesn't have the 4th in it, right? No 4th. So that's the first one. Now we can't use the next triad up, the F minor, because look at that right there. There's an E flat. However, we can use that 3rd, right? G, B flat, and D. We can't use the one from the 4th, obviously, because it has the 4th right there. But we can use the one from the 5th and the one from the 6th. The triad from the 7th, D, F, and A flat. Of course, that A flat is there, so that's really out of the game. It's out of bounds. So what we get is those 4 triads. Now, if we work on this sound, with those options, that really leaves us a lot of beautiful notes to play over an E flat major 7 chord. And this is, by the way, just the first option. Now, over the dominant chords, it's really an anything goes situation. Any triad diatonically on the B flat 7, this is like a B flat mixolydian scale or an E flat major scale. These all sound good. You can totally have the 4th over a dominant, because what is the 4th? It's the 1. It's where we're going. It actually makes it kind of a sus sound. But you'll notice if I play an E flat major 7 and I do that A flat major triad, really takes us out, doesn't it? It's too far away from the home base that the major chord is in this case. So we want to kind of avoid the 4ths in this scenario. Okay, so those are our 2 triad options. On the major chords, everything that doesn't include the 4th, so the triad from the root, from the 3rd, from the 5th, and from the 6th. On the dominant chords, anything goes. Any diatonic triad on those mixolydian scales, and this is throughout the entire first 8 bars of giant steps, will work. Okay, that was a mouthful, but I do want to start now with an etude over the first 8 bars of giant steps. And we're going to do a technique called blocking, meaning that we're going to come up with our shapes before we actually start with an etude. And then we're going to start improvising with this kind of idea too. But before we do that, I do want to work on this etude. Now, I've picked out some triads here that work really, really well over the first 8 bars of giant steps. Now giant step starts in B, and then it's a 5-1 to G, right, down a major third, then a 5-1 to E flat, then a 5-1 or 2-5-1 to G, 5-1 to E flat, 5-1 to B. So it goes through those 3 keys, B major, G major, and E flat major, right there in the first 8 bars. It happens twice right through the first 8 bars. This is where these shapes can really come in handy. So we can practice them without even breaking them up. As pianists, we get to practice them all as one, just remembering that we can't use on major chords any triad that has the 4th in it. So let's try this blocking exercise. I think you're really going to like this. 2 beats each here, and we're going to set our triads up. Once we start breaking them up, sort of the sky's the limit of what we can do, but you can hear how this is going to work if we block them all as once first. Let's try it. Let's do this little blocking etude here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And. Now this isn't the melody. We're just setting ourselves up for a little etude and then eventually to improvise. Here we go. Again, for the major chords, anything that doesn't have the 4th in it. For the dominant chords, anything diatonic is a go. Let's try it again. 2, 3, and. So you can see here, major, dominant, major, right? Now the 2-5 here, I'm treating all as dominant, as you would. Major, dominant, major, dominant, major. Okay? Now that's not what we would want to use this for. That's just an exercise to get us in the right position. As pianists, one of the reasons why these shapes are so good for playing faster lines or being able to really navigate through the changes very nimbly is because we can get into these positions. So what we're doing with the blocking exercise is practicing getting into hand positions. Once we're into those positions, we can do very, very cool things like this. These are the exact same triads that we just worked out with the blocking, but we're going to break them up a little bit. I have some basic shell voicings in our left hand, right? But check it out. If I were to play through these exact same triads, but just breaking them up in fun ways. So, same thing, right? But we can break them up. Like, I'll start with a rest. And then, how about we skip around a little bit on the G major? Anticipate. I added a little note there in that E flat. You can go down, you can go up, you can turn around on it. Isn't that cool? Let's try it. We're going to do it here as a quarter note, and then we're going to do it double time to start the blaze. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, and. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, and. Again, trying to get in the good positions for this. All of that language, though, those are just triads we're using. Let's try it double time. These can go pretty quickly. So I'm going to put this on beats 2 and 4, like a hi-hat. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Again, 1, 2, 3, and. 1, 2, 3, again. time. 1, 2, 3, again. Ah. Isn't that great? So this is how, like, you get into those positions and you can literally just twitch your hand around, roll your hand, do some circles, and you can move through giant steps in quite an easy way. Let's do it again. Let's slow it back down. Like I said, if you want to suck, then keep playing faster than you can actually handle. That's perfectly fine. You're going to sound bad. But let's try it again slow, like this is the quarter note. I want you to do this session. Start with the etude as written, completely as written, and at least twice. So do it twice through, and we'll do a little break between. And then I want you to practice improvising using just these triads. See if you can experiment and work your way around. Again, this is the quarter note here. 1, 2, 3, and... Try it again. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, how about improvising using this concept of triads? Experiment, see what works. Maybe triads with the fourth on major chords works for you. Let's see it. 1, 2, 3, and. Do it again from the top. 1, 2, 3, and. Isn't that so much fun? So that's just one shape. The triad, which is, like I said, the grandmama of all shapes, right? So we can do fourths, which is like the great uncle, maybe? I don't know. But this is an equally fun shape. And like I said, all these shapes are kind of the same. Once you start experimenting with different shapes, then it gets really good. So with fourths, again, on our major chords, we don't want to have the fourth in there, even though we're playing in fourths. We don't want to do fourths that have the fourth. So like from the fourth on a major chord. It's not something that it's going to sound that great. But from the second up, from the third up, from the sixth up, and from the seventh up sound awesome. Those four. Again, on our dominant chords, anything goes. Anything on the dominant chords is fair game. But on the fourth, we don't want to include any fourth that has the fourth of E flat major. This kind of makes sense. Okay, so we want to do the same thing. We want to kind of come up with our etude in the blocking first. Practicing shapes that we know are going to work, and then we can start moving them around in different shapes. I actually encourage you to figure out kind of a cool blocking and then figure out different ways to break it up. That's where it's really gold. So in fourths here, let's see here. How about that? Now again, the minor chords here, we're just considering part of the dominant. So this A minor 7, I'm just considering part of D7. Isn't that great? Let's play that. Just as is, half notes. 1, 2, 3, and. Beautiful. How gorgeous is that? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, and. Fourth was so pretty. Okay, so we can take this blocking here, we can start breaking it up however we want. I have a little pre-broken up etude for us. The same fourths broken up. So just like we started with this, right? Right, we start at the top, we go down to the bottom, and then back up. Ending right there on the 9. I love it. I love it when I write something and I forget what I wrote and then I come back and play it. Let's try this here. This is a quarter note. These are the exact same blocks of fourths that we were just playing, but now we're going to break it up in kind of an interesting way. Let's try it here. And again, some recommended voicings for our left hand there at the bottom. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and play with me. Again, just getting into position. Woo! Again, 1, 2, 3, and so hip. Let's try it double time here. So this will be 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Again, 1, 2, 3, and. So what's so great about this is, like I said, it's all about position. Once we get into the position, the blocking, I'm just rotating my hand, right? That's why you can blaze on this. It's like the big muscles get to do all the work for us. Let's go back to halftime and do the exercise where we play it as written. Let's do it once as written in halftime. And then I want you to experiment by improvising and moving these around. Remember that we don't want any shapes that have a fourth in it on a major chord, and on dominant chords, anything goes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. So as written first. Okay, let's try it again. Improvise. 2, 3, and practicing with the fourth. See what you can do. Now it's time to experiment. One more time. Here we go. From the top. 1, 2, 3, and. Isn't that fun? Fourths are so great. They're so ambiguous. It's like, what is happening? Where are we? I don't know, but it feels very angular. So next up is our final shape, and then we're going to combine everything at the end. This is a really fun one. This is the low cluster. You might also call this the shoegaze. I don't know. We'll see how it goes here. But again, for the major 7 chord, we don't want any fourths in the shape. So at least I don't. Again, you can do whatever you want. For me, I wanted to keep it nice and majory, nice and home bass sounding. So a major cluster has the second at the bottom and then a fourth up. So our E flat major, starting on E flat, is E flat, F, and B. And then we can just move that shape around diatonically. Again, from the second works. From the third wouldn't work because we have the second there at the bottom and there's an A flat. From the fourth, of course, wouldn't work. From the fifth works great. And from the sixth works great. Again, you can just a little rotation, just a little circle, no finger action here. You don't have to use any muscle to do this. And you could just blaze on these things. And like the other two on the dominant chord, anything goes. Isn't that great? So anything in this shape, once you start moving these around diatonically and experimenting with these are super fun and they sound really, really modern. So let's continue on. Just what we did before with our low clusters this time. Again, a second on the bottom and a fourth above the second. Isn't that great? Let's do a bit of blocking. So I'm going to pick some shapes here to start on giant steps. And then we can start moving those around. Now notice on my etudes here, on the blocking etudes and the regular etudes, I'm doing a lot of like, I'll go down and then I'll come up. Like with these shapes, you can stay in one place. You can move all up and down the keyboard. One of the great things about these is that you can move them around and just keep the shape. Whatever the shape is, triad or fourths or the low cluster here. So let's try our blocking exercise here. Just as written, half notes, 1, 2, 3, and. Right? Woo! Try it again. 1, 2, 3, and. So much fun. And then back up. Big jump here. And I'm just playing these with my arm. My fingers are nice and flat as I'm doing this. Don't want to use any fingers, because once we start breaking it up, it's just a flick back and forth. Okay, so that's our blocking. Let's see what it's like if we were to break this up. And again, you could break it up however you want. This is just an idea I had. So again, I'm just adding a little extra note to the block here. I love that last one at the end. That'll be cool. Let's try it. As written, halftime. This is a quarter note. 1, 2, 3, and. Oh. Try it again. 2, 3, and. Again, just finding the shapes. Let's try it double time. So we'll put this as the hi-hat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Isn't that great? 1, 2, 3, again. One more time. 1, 2, 3, again. Can't go out like that. One more time. 1, 2, 3, again. Okay, we have to go out like that. Okay, back to halftime. This is the quarter note. Let's do it one time through as written, and then I'm going to ask you to take these low clusters and experiment with moving them around. See what you can come up with. We'll go a few times through. So one time through is written so you can kind of get it in your ear, and then a bit of experimentation. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, now it's all you. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, and just experiment. time, all you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't that easy? It really is easy. It's not that bad at all. Okay, so one more version of this, and it's the combo. We're going to start with the blocking. So this is going to include triads. This is going to include fourths. This is going to include our low cluster. So I've kind of come up with my own version. And then once you start going with this, you realize that there's no like end to the possibility of shapes. You could do like big 7-note shapes and move it around. You know what I mean? Like move it around diatonically as much as you want. You could do crazy casino licks, whatever you want to do. You could do fifths, as far as I care. Like just practice moving things around diatonically. Okay, so for my combo one, start with a low cluster, fourths, triad, fourths, triad, low cluster, triad, fourths, low cluster, fourths, low cluster, fourths. Oh, that should be D sharp there. Fourths, it's E flat, just a little enharmonic business. Low cluster, low cluster. Let's try it here as written with the blocking. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and. One more time. 1, 2, 3, and. Again, we're going to break these up in just a minute. We're just blocking them out. And these are our positions, right? That's what these shapes are so good at, is we don't have to think about the actual individual notes. Once we work on the shape, then it's just about twitching our wrists, you know? One more time here with the blocking. 2, 3, and. So that's our blocking. If we take those exact same shapes, like we've been doing this entire session here, and we break them up, we can do some really interesting things. Again, 2, 3, and. Ah, it's so great. Let's try it double time. 1, put on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Woo, that's tough. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. One more time, double time, and then we're going to do a bit of improvisation. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Oh, it's so much fun. Okay, we're going to go back to halftime, so this will be the quarter note here, our pulse. And I'm just going to play a bass line. We're going to put a little bar in between. Any of the shapes is fair game right now. Any of the shapes is fair game. I just want you to go through giant steps with all these very fast-moving tonality changes and practice these 3 different shapes: triads, fourths, and the low cluster, or whatever shapes you really want to come up with. Now is you time. Kick your feet up. Well, don't really. That'll be bad posture. But it's really time for you to have fun and experiment. Let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. top. 1, 2, 3. You got it. Just have fun. See what you can come up with. From the top. You got it. One more time, you got it. 2, 3, and. Works really well with those 2 5s too. You just have to move them through. Thank you so much for your work today. Again, there is a PDF for this session. Don't forget to download that. And we are offering a 50% discount on my course, Pentatonics and Playing Out. Seems to be a good value for that. 50% off. There's a link down there below. Thank you, everybody. If you enjoyed this, click the like button. Heck, why not subscribe? You know what I mean. Thanks again, folks. I'll see you next time. Later.